Danny Vegas Live, and we're back for, are you ready? Segment 2 of the Danny Vegas Live show. All right, like we did in segment 1, if you're just tuning in or you're just particularly watching this segment, today is the Thursday after what has deemed now America's worst mass shooting right here in our hometown. I know we're in the studio here at Gene Woods Racing Experience, but I will tell you, we drive by the Mandalay Bay every day. I literally drive by it every day to get here. I mean, if you walk outside the studio and turn to the right, you can see the Mandalay Bay. I would not be surprised at 10:10, standing here at the go-kart track, you probably could have heard everything. That's how close we are, and that's how close this incident really is to everybody in this city. I am telling you, this is a small town, and of the small town mentality, and this has affected everyone. So I'm going to let Nicole Taylor Sharp, #OneLuckyGal. We have a special guest in today. She's been on the show before, and she was just so spectacular. We're going to bring her in again because this is right up her alley, and we're going to be talking about this for the rest of the show. Go.
Okay. Hello, Dr. Donaldson. Hi. So, we talked about, like a lot of folks, and this is Dr. Robin Donaldson of SolaceClub.com. You probably recognize her if you're a regular watcher of the Danny Vegas Live show, because she was on highlighting her wonderful business, a business that caters to those in grief and those grief supporters that want to be great grief supporters. And we talked about, Robin, when Danny and I were going over the lineup of the show. We're not ready for business as usual yet. Right. And it occurred to me when you and I were chatting on something else, and I had seen your posts about the triage work that you did, emotional triage work that you did right after the horrible incident that happened Sunday night. And I thought, boy, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could come in and just have a conversation with us, with the folks that are listening, and tell us a little bit about how do we deal with this. So could you maybe start off with sharing your experiences, maybe how you heard about what happened, and then how you ended up down on the middle of the what do we call it, the epicenter of the aftercare. Sure. Of the aftermath.
Aftermath, absolutely. Well, I had just gotten back into town from overseas on a vacation, and was hoping to get a little bit of sleep at 8:30 that night, which is, just for everybody to know, that is way too early for me to be going to bed. But I'm very glad that I was able to, because at about 11 o'clock I got a phone call from a neighbor indicating that they had been concerned, knowing that I have family that work in the service industry, to see if anybody had been on the Strip. And I wasn't aware. I was running through my head of, where all my people were. And I said, no, I don't think so. And then I checked my phone, and I had texts from my mother and my brothers indicating that, yes, I did have my brother and sister-in-law there.
At the Route 91 festival?
Yes, okay. At the festival, and that they had gotten separated. My sister-in-law had been injured, and that my brother was on his way to essentially pick them up and to take them to safety. So that's how I found out about it, and so I was texting, making sure that I was updated, that I knew when they were finally safe at my brother's house, and of course at that point I was wide awake and went on social media to ascertain how many other people that I knew were checking in safe. That was a key thing that brought me a lot of comfort. And then it was probably about two hours after that, and I said, I'm gonna need to get sleep. I know that I'm gonna be needed tomorrow, and so that's how that part of the night ended for me.
Okay, so can you tell us, and I didn't realize that you had such a close personal connection, that your sister-in-law was personally affected physically from the trauma. So can you tell folks a little bit about your background? You now are co-founder of a private business, solaceclub.com, but before that you were in UNLV and deep in the counseling, mental health service community of Las Vegas. So how were you informed that you were needed? Can you tell us how that works?
I got a phone call, I want to say around 8 o'clock. I was still a bit sleepy, so it's hard to recall, asking if I could come down and help. That they, the first place was over at Touro University, that they needed some more staff to help with the students. And I said, yeah, I'm available. Give me a little bit to get myself together and to head on down.
Okay, so you went down to Touro University, and what is your job as a mental health professional? How do you bite into that apple? It seems like it's an overwhelming, huge task. I think when medical professionals look at a physical triage situation, they're looking at those that are most in need.
Right.
How do you tell as a professional who is most in need? And then maybe we can, as common folk, can glean from those around us, the folks that look okay. How do you know who to help?
So I can answer that in a two-pronged approach, because the people that come in for mental health services, especially right after, they're seeking it. So it's not a lot of going out into the community. So for example, even though I'm aware that there are a lot of counselors available in various areas of the city very soon after, it still requires the individual to go in and to seek assistance.
Okay.
It is my understanding that a lot, folks with the Red Cross and even some EMTs, they do have some training on how to help people that are that experience traumatic situations. After that, though, is when everything really starts to settle in, and they need that extra support. So it is on a case-by-case basis of who feels like they might need support. But at this point in time, I would say that everybody does. Anybody that was there would benefit from talking about what they had gone through. And so that would be my recommendation. There are people that would say, I don't need any help, forget it, it's not for me. And I think that does their mental health a disservice.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's kind of interesting to me because, like you said, I think everybody kind of handles stuff like this in a different way. I was watching, all the news channels, and one of the news shows literally had a gentleman whose wife got killed. And I was thinking, wow, this guy's wife died 2 days ago, and now he's on TV kind of telling about it. And I thought to myself, there's no way I could do that. There's no way after 2 days if my wife died in such a fashion that I can be on a news show talking about it. I mean, I think it's hard enough for me now to talk about it, but if I actually had someone who died there, and I thought, wow, he's handling it such a different way than I do. So I guess my question is, do you see that range from, the people with supposedly the strong personalities, like, well, that's what things happen, to the point where people are just devastated? How does that happen?
Well, I think that it depends on the individual, and I like how you said that this particular individual handled it differently, as opposed to saying, oh, they're handling it well, or they're being so great and strong, because I think that in our society, we mistake that. We think that if somebody is presenting as though they have all of their stuff together, that they actually do. And I think that sometimes results in subverting all of the emotional piece, which can come up later. So the range, anything that people are experiencing is essentially normal. So being in shock, being numb, not having much of a reaction, and just throwing up their hands and saying, well, this is the way that it is. All of this is normal, and I just think that it depends on how close they were to the event, how impacted they were, if they knew people that were injured, if they knew people that died, that's going to have a greater impact on them.
Well, very interesting. We're going to get more into it in segment 3 right after this.